सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। विधेः प्रयत्नस्य च कोऽपि वादः तयोर्द्वयोर्मूलमजानतां स्यात्। विधेः प्रयत्नस्य च मूलवस्तु सञ्जानतां नैव विधिर्न यत्नः। यदीशितुर्वीक्षणमीक्षितारम् अवीक्ष्य तन्मानसिके क्षणं स्यात्। न द्रष्टुरन्यः परमो हि तस्य वीक्षा स्वमूले प्रविलीय निष्ठा। आत्मानमीक्षेत परं प्रपश्येत् इत्यागमोक्ते सुलभो न भावः। नात्मैव दृश्यो यदि काकथेशे स्वयं तदन्नीभवनन्तदीक्षा। There are a lot of injunctions in the Upanishads. And what are they? One must know the Atma to make this life worthwhile. See the Atma, be the Atma. These are all things. Hey, you, be the Atma. Because Tattvamasi, you are the Atma. Why are you behaving like an Atma? If you are already Atma, why are you not behaving like that? Come on. There's a lot of the Upanishad extorts us. Come on. Inspires us. Do this. You can do this. Yes. You see, all the lineage of gurus have done this before you. It's not so hard. Come on, do it. And then, furthermore, in the Upanishads, it says, and in the Bhagavad Gita, go ask for this knowledge from somebody that knows. Of course, they will give you this. तद्विद्धि प्रणिपातेन परिप्रश्नेन सेवया उपदेक्ष्यन्ति ते ज्ञानं ज्ञानिनः तत्त्वदर्शिनः. So, fall at the feet of the gurus, and then what else? Ask for this knowledge by doing namaskar, that is the falling at the feet, and then doing seva, and then what else? What's the third one? Pariprashna. Asking, for lack of a better term, intelligent, pertinent questions. Okay, and meaning relevant to one's self growth at hand, and so do that, and then you, of course, they will teach you. And then again in the Viveka Chudamani, there is an expression, there is a very nice verse. Shanto Danto Nivasanti Santah Vasanta Valloka Hitam Charantah Tirna Swayam Bhima Bhavarnavam Bhavan Anyanapi Ahetuna Tarayantah. Very beautiful. So there are in the universe people who are waiting to teach, but they are not recognized because one is not looking for them. And because these teachers are not, they don't have a pressure to teach. They're not hiding in the street, every street corner, and handing out flyers. They're not doing that. And so, come to me, come one, come all to the Vedanta ball. They are not saying that. And so, therefore, there is, so they are in a way hidden because one doesn't know what one is looking for. That's why they are hidden. Okay. And so then, so such teachers are there, and because they don't put themselves out in front unless they are approached for the knowledge. So Shantah, they are tranquil. Dantah, they are restrained. They are not, they're not reactive. Nivasanti Santah, these saintly people are there. And then Vasantavat, and what is their purpose in the world? Vasantavat loka hitam charantaha. So their purpose is just to help people who ask for their help. And then, so what are they like? Vasantavat means they are spring-like. Oh, means they bounce around? No, no, no. Spring as in the season, spring, okay? Not spring. All right. So, so they are spring-like, meaning suddenly, out of the snow of winter, suddenly you see one green shoot, and it's still winter is not completely over. It's kind of late February, mid March, early March, something. And then you see a shoot and a pink flower, a crocus grows, even in the snow. So it is heralding it is calling out to the spring and heralding the spring. And so the teachers are like that. They are there, they are ready to teach, often unrecognized. Just like even the spring, when it first comes, we don't see it, but then the spring is so welcome. Nobody, everybody just absolutely loves the spring. After the winter, after the winter, it is just so welcome. And Tirna Swayam, they themselves have crossed. What have they crossed? All the people in their path? No. What have they crossed? They have crossed the terrifying Bhima Bhavarnavam. So, Bhima Bhavarnavam is the terrifying ocean of samsara with the seaweed of doubt and the crocodiles of fear and the eddies and whirlpools of confusion. And then what else? And then the tsunami of despair. This is the ocean of samsara. And what are the they have crossed. Whereas, what about the rest of the people? They're all Sams. Oh, their names are is Sam, might as well be, because one is Float Sam, another is Jet Sam. Okay, just pieces of driftwood, lost, without a marga, without a path, lost here, lost there. And so, such people, having crossed this terrible, horrible ocean of samsara, these teachers, these gurus, for no reason, ahetuna, without needing to get anything in return, without needing to be compensated, without needing to get anything back, including, oh, this student must be enlightened by the end of, what is the text? Saddarshanam. Even that is not, even that expectation is not there. And so such people are there. And then what are you doing? Go and study. This is what all the Vedanta works tell. But Ramana Maharshi here is the first one to acknowledge that is not so easy to do, because agamokti, agamasya ukti, agamokti. Agamokti means the ukti, the sayings of the words of the Shastra, the Upanishads, and our secondary works, like the ones I have quoted. So the agamukti is, even though it is there, then what happens? Atmanamikshet. May you see the Atma, you must see the Atma. Param prapashyet. See Bhagavan in you as you. Iti agama oktehe. For these, to understand these uktis, to understand the sayings of the Shastra, Sulabho na bhavaha. It is certainly not sulabha, means easily understood. This is a euphemistic way of saying easier said than done. It is very difficult. Okay. Then why is it difficult? It is it is difficult because na atma eva drishyaha. So, first of all, what are the Agamas saying? What are the Upanishads saying? You are Bhagavan. You are one with Ishvara, Tattvamasi. Jagat Karanam Brahma. This Brahman, which is the Karana for the whole universe, this is you alone. And you have to see that, you have to be that. And our ears, are drilled with this message. Sulabho na bhavaha. Not so easy. Why? First of all, Atma na eva न एव आत्मा दृश्यः यदि yadi here is not necessary, but still, in a way, it is to contrast what is going to come. Yadi means if to begin with, the Atma is not an object of sight, how can these words of the Upanishad I can put to practice? How can I do that? It's not possible at all. Then, and 1,000 Upanishads may be telling me, go look at this, go see the Atma and be the Atma. Why, after so much instruction, you are still doing this? Why? How? Be the Atma. See the Atma. And why don't you do this? Why are you still questioning all this? Well, my question, my first question is, where is this Atma? To see means what? Na Atma, na Atma, what is that, Drishya. Atma is not an object. Atma is not an object. It's not an object. So if somebody said a new shop has come to town, a new restaurant has come to town, go see what it is selling, go see what it is like, go experience this new restaurant, I will be the first one happily to go. And then I will even write a review. What is that called? Some Yelp, yeah. you know, and that is and you don't just yelp when the restaurant is bad. Even when it's good, it's a place where you write some reviews. I went there, and this is how long it took for the appetizer to come, and this entree to come. All these things you write a review. And then you write a few things, and then you start a conversation on the social media. You put some photos of the food. I don't know why people are obsessed with taking pictures of their food and then putting it on the social sites. I don't know what the fascination is. But so you can do all that. But then you want to know the Atma. How will you share it on social media? What does the Atma look like? How will you enter into a conversation with friends and other people? You're excited that you're on this new journey, and you want everybody to share with everybody. Come check out the Atma. All right, we are happy to oblige. What does it look like? Well, it doesn't look like anything much. Okay, where is it? It is everywhere and nowhere. And then people will say, okay, this one is mad. Right? And then you will find that, your tweets are not being liked or being retweeted, nothing. And, you're a social media pariah, Pariah is a Hindi word, okay? Pariah means, apna means our own. Pariah means outside the circle of loved ones. And so you find yourself, you find yourself cast out of the circle of what is acceptable. And that's why anybody studying Vedanta, thinks about all this and decides to not talk about it at all for a long time with friends and family, because there is no way to talk about it. And in a way that is acceptable. How are you going to talk about it? And so here, so Atma itself is not an object of sight. It doesn't have the distinct smell that pakodas do. Pakodas are nice fried things, okay? Yeah, and then it doesn't have any fragrance. It does not feel like a flower petal or velvet. Because it is not available to touch. It doesn't make any kind of wonderful holy sounds so that you can recognize it. Aha, that's the sound of Atma. No, no sound, no sight, no touch, no hearing, no smell, nothing. And then maybe I can just sit here and shut my eyes really tight and infer the Atma. No such luck. The truth of the inferer is Atma. The one who infers is Atma. And then what? Multiple level inference? No. Maybe I can know the Atma through comparing it with something else. Well, it is incomparable. So you can't, it is unlike anything else. You are unlike anything else. So, even the Shakespeare sonnet, shall I compare thee to a summer's day, even though it sounds good, it is not applicable here. And so therefore it cannot, and if you ask Atma, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? No, you may not. It will say, if it could talk, it would say that. No, you may not compare me to anything, because I am only one of a kind. And you can't compare me with anything. And then, so you can't know it by comparison. Well, maybe you can't know it by perception. You can't know it by inference. What do we conclude? Maybe it is not there at all. Well, you are very much there. The next verse is going to point that out. If you are there, you cannot say Atma is not there. So the Atma is very much there. But you see the difficulty in talking about it even to your friends, much less putting it on a resume. I have self knowledge. If you write that, you're sure to not get that job. They will say, what is this? So, what did you do? I went to an ashram and stayed there, stayed with a teacher. I did Gurukula Vasa. What? No, I stayed in the Gurukula. What do you mean you stayed there? What is Gurukula? Well, it's a place where it's taught, and then you go there, and then you study, and then you study intensely. You study during the day, you study during the afternoon, you study during the evening, and then you get up in the morning again and start studying and meditating and doing yoga and doing a little bit of seva here and there. And this is how you study intensely. And then they will say, keep those studies to yourself. Because this is not good for it. But I do know the Atma. Never mind. You enjoy the knowledge, keep it to yourself. This is here we are into product sales and updates and all this. We are not interested in what you have. So this is, in a way, the knowledge of the Atma, I mean, is very difficult to get. Difficult to get for these reasons. It's not an object. Difficult to also talk about to others. It takes a lot of courage and some Vedanta lingo. You have to be listening for a while carefully before you can share with others what you have studied. Otherwise, you'll be a laughing stock, or you will just, if you want to invite others to listen, they will not listen. They will say you're mad, and I don't want to have anything to do with this. You're absolutely mad. And so this is why it is so difficult to pursue the Atma. And it is also difficult because, in a way, it is in at least in the beginning, before you are able to actually live the knowledge, it can be alienating. It is alienating you. Ironically, the same knowledge that is supposed to bring everything into one and cut through the alienation from the Jagat, from Ishvara, from Jagat means universe, Ishvara, God, from oneself, starts out by alienating. In the beginning, it's a very lonely pursuit. But why? Because nobody understands it. And people think you're wasting your time. What is this? First thing in the morning, you're sitting on the computer, not Gurukulam, Zoom Kulam. Okay, yeah. So you're sitting the computer first thing in the morning. Are you mad? This is what they'll say. There are so many things to do. What do you get out of this? Happiness. Oh, you don't look very happy to me. Well, I'll get it eventually. Eventually, what's the proof? Well, the teachers who have taught have got it. Yeah, right. What's the guarantee you will get it? This is how the people will question you. And not only that, to make things worse, they will keep a vigil on you. Oh, you're studying the Gita? Bhagavad Gita. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Yesterday you still got angry. You got so angry. After 3 years of studying the Bhagavad Gita, you're still losing it. Yeah, is it any use? Do you think it's transforming you? I don't seem to think it's transforming you at all. And people will notice, especially teenagers. If you have teenagers around, they will be extremely young adults, teenagers around. If you have, they will be extremely vigilant, and they will track track how much you are living this knowledge. So these are the reasons why the Atma is not easy to pursue. And then he adds one more twist. What to talk about Ishvara? Atma itself cannot be seen. What to talk about Ishvara? Katha, what is the Katha means? Story. What is the story with regard to Ishvara now? Atma itself is difficult to see. It's difficult to understand. It's difficult to live this knowledge. And so, what to talk about Bhagavan? What to talk about God? And so, for these reasons, it is very, very difficult. And so, therefore, what? Therefore, the uh, the um, the next two lines talk about the last line says this, uh, swayam tad anni bhavanam tad iksha. Iksha means, so how to understand this atma. Anni bhavanam, yesterday we saw it is a particular suffix called chvi, chvik pratyaya. And what does this chvi do? The chvi makes something into what it is not, into something that it is. Anni bhavanam. So it is not annam. Anna means food. So the ego is not fodder. But now here it is made into food. So that's why it is that anni bhavanam. That is how it is understood. So this anni bhavanam of what? The ego. Make the ego into food. Into food means what? That is offered. Here, you take it. Who gave you the ego? You have to say Bhagavan, because you didn't even know anything when you were born. You had no idea. And so who gave you the ego? Bhagavan gave you the ego. And now the time has come, give it back. Like a leased car. Nowadays people don't buy the car. You lease it and then you hand over the key back. And then it's their problem, because you don't have to deal with an old car. You don't have to take it to the repair all the time. Nothing. You just hand it to them and then you take a new one, drive a new one home, like this. So here, only the metaphor is up to giving the key back. You don't drive a new ego home. Okay? Yeah. So you give back the ego to Bhagavan. And this is not just a metaphorical. I mean, it is very symbolic, but it's got deep meaning here. And what is the meaning? It is connecting to the Lord or the Goddess in the form of the psychological order. Because if you say my ego, you're still in, there is an ego on top of the ego on top of the ego. That ego which is claiming itself is the problem, which is claiming itself as the ultimate. And so that ego, who is going to give up? Tell me. So you want to give up the ego. What is ego? I notion. All right. So then who is going to give up? I. So I, the ego, is going to give up I, the ego. So then you need a new giver upper to give up the giver upper. Then after the first giver upper is given up, then you need a new giver upper to give up the giver upper of the giver upper. Then after that you need a brand new giver upper to give up the giver upper to give up the giver upper to give up the giver upper. So this makes no sense. We are in an infinite regress. So the ego first, many things we have to talk about when it says ahankara. The ahankara is not something to be given up. It is something to be lightened of the burden of thinking that it is the doer, it is the recipient of other people's actions. It is the doer. I am the doer, that notion, iti notion. I am done in, that notion. And so those notions are what given up. Notions are given. And so the ego is there, because without the ego, you can't give up anything. And then you can't really give up the ego without really retaining the ego in a sense, because who is going to be the giver upper? It's like the story of the young Swami who had just been given sannyasa by his guru, and he went to take a bath and met an elderly Swami there. And that Swami asked him, "Oh, you got sannyasa! Wonderful." And the young man started a long list. "When did this happen?" And he said, "Yeah, I have given up everything. I gave up the spouse. I gave up the children. I gave up the house. I gave up the bank account. I gave up the friends. I gave up all my desires, going to the movies, going to restaurants. Everything I have given up." And the elderly Swami listened patiently and he said, "Yes, but when are you giving up the giver upper?" In Sanskrit, it is said, it translates into Yena Tyajasi Tat Tyaja, by which you have given up all these things, that I notion. Now it is time to give it up. So give it up again is metaphorical. You can't really give up the ego because you even after so-called quote unquote enlightenment, self-knowledge, whatever you want to call it, ego is still there. But it is a lightened ego, disabused of the notion that it is the doer or that it is the recipient of other people's doings, actions, reactions, etc. It is not at all coming under that. And so therefore, the first of all, that's why it is so difficult, because the ego, this anni bhavanam, has to be understood properly. So it's not that you are telling Bhagavan, take away the ego. No, you are plugging into the knowledge of the psychological order when you recognize the ego as an obstruction to this self knowledge. The ego and its brood. What is its brood? That which makes you brood. Okay, that's what its brood is. And so what is that? Karta aham, I am the agent. I am done in. I am the victim of other people's doings. So this all is this miserable ego. That misery is washed off from the ego. It's carrying a burden of misery and fear, and those are all washed off from that ego. And this is what is so beautiful. Very, very beautiful. So Anni Bhavanam means I am looking at the ego as not just my ego. I'm looking at it as the collective expression of individuality in all beings. In all beings. And so it is there even in dog, cat, cow, etc., but in a less full-blown form, because there is no free will, there is only programming. And so therefore it is very much the psychological order of Bhagavan. And in this psychological order, it includes all emotions, all gradations of emotions. Every kind of disorder is also included in the psychological order. And so here we have a very, very beautiful uh, way of no longer claiming the sorrow, the fear, the pain, and all these things within samsara, the doership and the experiencership. All these things, we have a way of not claiming them anymore. Because you see, when you say, this is my ahankara, then the misery is more, because the misery is come with a personalized, it's come with a label with your name on it. It's like a monogram t-shirt. So the ahankara is like a monogram t-shirt. Your initials are already on it. You have claimed this as yours. It's not, so, but then giving it back to Ishvara means recognizing the fact that these emotions, whether it is sorrow, whether it is fear, whether whatever it is, they have a reason. They have a purpose. It's not purposeless. So what is sorrow? When, when there is a feeling nothing is going my way, oh no, nobody loves me, no self esteem, and nobody is caring for me. All this is what sorrow is. But then you look at the branch of knowledge called psychology, and what does it do? It makes it, this branch of knowledge is Ishvara. It's a manifestation of the Lord, because gives it a reason. It's no longer your sorrow anymore. It will say, given this background, if a person grows up this way, and yes, they will be sad. Given this background, the child with this particular childhood, yes, growing up they will be distrustful of others. Given this background, they will be have anger issues. As soon as you recognize that it's not your anger, it's not your distrust, it is not your sorrow, so you understand in an instant that this you have just taken on something that is not yours at all. No matter how stubborn the emotion, no matter how difficult the emotion, it is not yours. It is just a cause effect connection. And what is the cause? The cause is a background. Oh, but I don't remember my childhood. Doesn't matter. It was there. Bhagavan remembers it. It's okay. So there is a cause, and because of this cause, there is a consequence. It's a cause effect, karana karya connection, cause effect connection. Given this background, that one gets angry is not surprising at all. Completely unsurprising, the psychologist will say. So this is something which is, which is no longer miserable. It's no longer my misery. And you can just throw away the monogram t-shirt. At the back of it, it says, I am sad. You can take it. It's no longer your sorrow. It's no longer your anger. It's no longer your distrust. It's no longer your lack of self-esteem. It becomes a universal law. It is seen as a universal law in which, you have walked in the rain, and then when you walk in the rain, you catch a few drops and the clothes become wet. That's all it is. You walked in the rain of this law. It was raining misery, and you just walked underneath it without an umbrella. Of course, so you got wet. Not a big deal. There is a remedy. Upaya is there. Upaya means remedy. And then so you take some remedial measures. If you go to the astrologer, they'll say do some special fire rituals and pujas and everything. And the astrologers will keep you very, very busy. They will say first tie some, oh, this looks like this has the imprint of Saturn all over it. It is very Saturnine. And so Saturn is a manifestation of Bhagavan. So what do? You get some black cloth and tie, and cut it into 3 by 3, what is that, pieces. And then you put some black sesame seed. And then with the black thread, you make little, what is that, poultices, okay? Tiny ones. And then you get an earthen lamp, kind of an earthen or an iron pot. And then in that you put some oil and soak this little poultice in oil. And then on a Saturday evening, and in a safe place, you burn it while chanting the mantra like this. How many Saturdays should I do? Well, you're in the Shani Mahadasha, which is 20 years, okay? 20 years of a Saturnine period in your horoscope. And then so every Saturday, and then so how many Saturdays in 1 year? And then multiply that by 20. Better start making the poultices now, okay? And some astrologers will even go to one more extreme and say, you must not buy any of the ingredients. You have to ask it of neighbors and friends, and thereby advertise to everyone that I'm feeling gloomy. I have Saturn Mahadasha and I am in the grip of all this. You advertise to the whole world. That's the idea. That's the idea. That you just have nothing to hide anymore. It gives humility. And then, and because, when they came around to borrow the black cloth or some sesame seeds, ha ha ha, you might have thought inside, but now, no, no such ha ha ha. You know, the shoe is on the other foot. So very humbly you beg for all the ingredients, and then every weekly, and it's not just you burn one per week. That is only for America, the advice given, because everybody is afraid of fire hazard. In India, we live in a concrete jungle, so we are not afraid of fire there. Everything, if you look this way, there is a fire. So here, they will say burn 21 of them at one time, or burn 108 of these poultices at one time. So like this, they, and why is this, what is the connection between burning sesame oil, sesame seeds in black cloth? No connection, in a way, at least not an obvious connection. Maybe there is an invisible connection. For that we have to go and ask Shani. Hope you enjoyed this, enjoyed the little poultice candy. Maybe you can go ask him. But that's not the idea. The idea is that you are taking part in a ritual, and you have a certain orientation to take part in that ritual, and your mind is focused and you're kept busy. And then after performing the ritual, then you say, I have done everything that I could. Oh, great. There's nothing to worry about then. There is no fear because you've done everything that you could. Oh, but the situation doesn't have a solution. Well, that's why you have taken recourse to Bhagavan. If the situation doesn't have a solution, no point in getting depressed. Because what will happen? It doesn't have a solution. But if it has a solution and you are partaking of the solution, you're doing the solution, then there is nothing to worry. You have done everything that you could. So this is the way in which in the ancient time we did not have what is it called, the psychotherapists, etc. Even in India now also we don't have. Why? Because there is a strong kinship network, and because there are Vedic rituals like this, which take away the emotions, there is place to vent out these emotions, there is place to cleanse these emotions. And so this Anni Bhavanam means recognizing this as the order of Bhagavan. When you recognize it as the psychological order, in which the ego is a very important player, it plays many, many roles. Yeah, it keeps on rolling from one role to another and getting fat. This roly-poly ego playing many, 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 many roles. And it's going from one role to another and fattening itself up. And then this is what has to be sacrificed. Sacrificed in the sense of, metaphorically, you give it up. Tad anni bhavanam. That, so what is what is Ishvara? Ishvara is jiva minus ego. Really, this is in the Maharshi's definition of Ishvara. You take the jiva and then you surgically remove the ego. So remove the ego means, you remove all the pain and sorrow and everything. You retain only the I notion. You retain only the part of the ego which is called the I notion. Aham, that only. I am you retain. I am an idiot. I am sad. I am bad. I am mad. I am rad. All that you remove. All the qualifications, the visheshanas, the adjectives you remove. And that which remains is Ishvara. And what is Jiva? Ishvara with a big complex. With a Ahankara is Jiva. Ishvara with a big complex is Jiva. And what is Ishvara? That is Jiva. What is Ishvara? Jiva minus ego. That's what it is. And so when the pain is, looked at from the psychological order, there is a conscious disowning of this pain. It's not dissociation. It's not going into your happy place and saying nothing happened and I'm all right. It is not denial. It is not dissociation. It is a form of objectivity and externalization of something you have wrongly internalized as you. You understand it is not you. And then along with that, you add a nice helping of bhakti, devotion, and then you say, "All right, you put the ego, which is why I'm having sorrow, which is why I'm having fear. Take it back. Here, I give it back to you. It's no longer mine." And so, what happens is that it loses the teeth, the unconscious, which has the which is famous, which is notorious for biting you from behind, just coming and catching hold of the neck, biting you. Here now loses its teeth. Even if it bites, it doesn't hurt anymore. There is no pain, there is no hurt, there is no fear, because you have accepted it. And in that radical acceptance is Ishvara Darshanam. You see, your whole life is spread in front of you like a carpet. And you, as the seer, can look at the designs. Oh, this is an interesting design. It was there from the beginning. Very interesting. Oh, here somebody spilled some coffee. Light colored carpet full of stains. Ugly. Well, it is part of the carpet now. Well, why didn't somebody try to remove the stain? They might have tried. They didn't know how. They didn't know what solution to use. Now the stain is here. It has become part of the carpet. And then there is some other drawing and some other addition. And you keep looking at it and without identifying with it. So the observing, you get into the mode of the observer, and whatever you observe is not you. And eventually, like cockroaches, when you turn on the light, they just go away, slink off and hide. This is what it is. Those emotions, they do better than hide. They do not disturb you anymore. And therefore, this Anni Bhavanam, this making this into food, making this into food for thought. Ishvara's food, meaning Ishvara's this Annam Yajna, somewhere it is even Anna is Yajna is creation. The first Yajna is the Yajna of creation, fire ritual of creation. And so that all starts with food. And so therefore this this is a sacrifice of everything, all the emotions. Even though they are not dear to you, they still are difficult to let go of. And so therefore this is a very wonderful verse. Looks like they might have been thinking about the Kathopanishad when Maharshi wrote this, because in the Kathopanishad we have a very cryptic verse. Yasya ब्रह्म च क्षत्रं च उभे भवतः ओदनः मृत्यु उपसेचनं यस्य कैत्था वेद कस्य सः. Beautiful. So here is a jnani just sitting down to eat. Oh, what does the jnani eat? Let's look into the plate and see what she or he is eating. And then instead of rice and dal on the plate, what do you find? You find instead of rice and dal, you find all the hierarchies of society. Rich, richer, richest, and famous, famous. So that this is what Brahma and Kshatra, are, mean. Brahma means this is Brahmana. This is Kshatriya. These are the top ranking people in the society. And Jnani doesn't go, oh, I'm so happy to meet you. You're a Brahmana. Oh, you're a Kshatriya. How wonderful. Oh, now I'm feeling nervous. What will I say in front of you? No such thing. He mixes them together, he, she, and then just swallows them up, meaning for who is beyond hierarchies and gradations. And then, okay, you have rice and dal. This is a typical Indian meal, okay? Yeah, you have rice and dal. You can make anything else, spaghetti, sauce, whatever you want, you can say, okay? So you have rice and dal, but where is the sabji? Sabji means a little, vegetable, or a little pickle sometimes. If there is no vegetable, you put a little pickle. A little piece of pickled mango or lemon is put on the side of the thing just to taste it. It's not a main dish. You don't put this much of it. Otherwise, you will be in the bathroom for 3 days because it is quite spicy. Okay. So you just put a little bit and you just touch it to the lips. And that is called a condiment. So, if rice and dal are the gradations in society, for the jnani, what is the condiment? The condiment is mrityu. Death is the condiment for whom? The one who just tastes death. That's what the one who does. And so, and then the Lord Yama who's teaching this, Yama has a very, of course, a very subtle and sometimes a morbid sense of humor because he himself is the death that is on the plate. So he says, for the jnani, I am just a little something to sample and go, not at all afraid. I eat everybody, the jnani eats me up. No fear there. And so, Kaitha Veda, meaning what that jnani knows, who knows? Who knows what that jnani knows? This is a very beautiful verse. And so here, this is what it is, Anni Bhavanam. So if you look at Brahmana, Kshatriya, these ancient gradations of the society, that was all ego-based. So here he says the ego the ahankara is becoming food. So this is exactly how it is. And so when the ahankara is enlightened, then what? That is itself Ishvara. Very, very nice verse. Wonderful. Didn't think it would take so long, but here we are. Doesn't matter. धिये प्रकाशं परमो वितीर्य स्वयं धियोऽन्तः प्रविभाति गुप्तः धियं परावृत्य धियोऽन्तरेऽत्र संयोजनान्नेश्वरदृष्टिरन्या धिये प्रकाशं परमो वितीर्य स्वयं धियोऽन्तः प्रविभाति गुप्तः धियं परावृत्य धियोऽन्तरेऽत्र संयोजनान्नेश्वरदृष्टिरन्या. Continuing with the same topic that has been talked about in the last verse. Last two verses. This is all about seeing, quote unquote, Atma, seeing Ishvara. What that entails and where is this Ishvara. And now somebody can say, you have strung me along for 2 verses. And you take you take a long time to cover one verse. And so you have strung me along for the last 3 days with a stick. At the end of it is Ishvara. Carrot, the carrot is Ishvara. Better than carrot cake, Ishvara. And so here, you have dangled this Ishvara in front of me, but I'm not any closer to finding out where is this Ishvara. You say don't look because it's not an object. It's not an object of hearing. It's not an object of sight. But then how am I to know? How am I to know? Finally, if this is what anybody has been thinking, the wait is over. This is a very nice, it is a beautiful verse. It starts off with the creation mythology in the Taittiriya Upanishad and then goes straight to Ishvara Drishti. And we'll take a little tour to the back to the Kathopanishad also. Dhiye prakasham Paramaha Vitirya, having distributed what? Himself, the Lord, Atma. So Paramaha, it's masculine, so therefore here it is himself. So having distributed himself, where, what? Distributed what? Himself, how? Prakasham, in the form of that light of awareness, consciousness, where Dhiye, all over the universe, of course. But then finally has, distributed this awareness, this consciousness, this existence, this limitless conscious existence, limitless conscious presence, which is formless, which is called Ishvara, which is non-separate from the I. How is it non-separate from the I? Because dhiye. Dhiye means for the dhi, for the buddhi. Having blessed the buddhi, the intellect, with uh, with what? Having blessed the intellect with that limitless, with itself, that limitless awareness, presence. Having blessed the buddhi, then where did Bhagavan go? Bhagavan did not repair to heaven. This is not a dualistic theology. What is a dualistic theology? That to protect which many duels have been fought. Yeah, this is a dualistic theology. So, this is not a dualistic theology. There is no two here. It is not that Bhagavan, having created the universe, has gone off somewhere and living in some kind of a penthouse. No, not at all. And so that which we call the universe is non-separate from the presence which has projected this universe. The cause, the effect is non-separate from the cause. The cause inheres the effect. Very, very nice. Very, very important to understand. Very beautiful. We can look at something which is we can understand something which is beyond logic, but it is very difficult to swallow something that has no logic at all. And so therefore here dhiye prakasham paramo vitirya. So having bestowed or blessed the intellect and the whole universe with this limitless presence and awareness, then what? Swayam, that Paramaha, that Ishvara, Swayam, Dhiyaha Antaha Pravibhati Guptaha. Then Ishvara decided to hide. Where? Inside the intellect, inside the buddhi. Ishvara said, let me just hide. Why? Because let the jiva find me. Let me play hide. Let me just hide. This is just an imagination. So, it's as though having projected this universe, Ishvara hid in the place where Ishvara desperately wants to be found. Where? In that buddhi, in the same intellect which is looking and yearning for Ishvara everywhere except itself. Like the story of the two men who were traveling on the train. This is in 70s in India. So they were traveling on the train, and then every night one of the men had just a stack of rupees, big stack of big denomination rupees. Every night he counted, counted. And the one in the neighboring seat, the opposite seat, was drooling at the sight of this. And he thought, let him sleep. He's counting it every night. Let him sleep. And then I will help myself to this money. Every night he counted. And then he slept really well. But his seatmate did not sleep well at all because he was busy, like a little rat going around with a flashlight looking in his belongings. He looked in his suitcase, nothing there. He looked in his carry-on, nothing there. He looked in the pockets of his, trousers, which he had just hung up right there where he was sleeping. Nothing anywhere. Got very frustrated. It was a long journey, maybe going from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, 2.5 day, 3 day journey. And then every night he did this. Every night he would just count everything, make sure it was all okay. And then he never, even though he kept close attention, he would never hide it when he was around. When he went to the bathroom, the fellow would hide it. Or when he was ordering some dinner or tea or something out of the window, the fellow would hide it. And on the third day, he just couldn't stand it. And he said, okay, I have a confession. Because they were nearing their destination, they would never see each other again. And the thief, the wannabe thief said, I give up, and I must confess. that I had eyes on this money, because before getting down from the train again he counted this big wad of notes, and he said, I must confess, I had I had my eye on this. No, but I looked everywhere. Okay, now you don't have to worry because you'll never see me again. But I'm dying of curiosity. Where did you hide this? Oh, the man said, in your suitcase. I hid it. Underneath your clothes. In your suitcase, I hid it. This is how Bhagavan is. Bhagavan is in your suitcase. Okay? Yeah. In your buddhi. That which you use to look for everything, to look for Bhagavan, that is where Bhagavan is. That is why difficult to know. That is why difficult to appreciate. And it seems anticlimactic because you want Bhagavan to come with a big halo of light, and you want Bhagavan to do some miracles. It's all a miracle. Vedanta is a miracle. And Vedanta is a miracle because it says you are a miracle. You are a miracle. And how this Satchidananda, quote unquote, identified as a jiva, that is another miracle. How is that possible? And that this Vedanta works is a miracle. The teacher is a miracle. The student who comes to Vedanta is a miracle. And then the teaching itself is a miracle. It's all magic. And even after teaching, one doesn't learn, that one doesn't understand, that is also a miracle. How does that happen? It's all a miracle. It's just fantastic. So then Bhagavan Pravibhati shines what? Shines always in relation to objects. Shines as the knower of the objects, as the enjoyer of the objects, as the owner of the objects, as the desirer of the objects. But then that shine of Ishvara, hidden in the although hidden in the intellect, is also outside the intellect, in the whole Jagat. And so there also it is hidden because we mistake the Lord, the goddess, for the object. We mistake that for the object. We mistake Ishvara for the object. This is the problem. And so one falls in love, falls underscored, that the one falls in love with the object, not with the subject, which is oneself. And so therefore, Pravibhati Guptaha. Then what? Then what do I do? Dhyam paravritya. Turn the intellect inward, metaphorically, okay? It's not, don't, this is not about trying to have a surgery or anything. Turn the intellect metaphorically inward. Where? Dhiyo, dhiyaha, antare, atra. Antare, dhiyaha, antare, atra, dhiyam paravritya, pashya. So, go within yourself, metaphorically. And then, what do you see? Samyojanat na ishvara drishtihi anya. So here we have to see where this na goes. The na, even though it is placed there, the negation doesn't go there. Samyojanat ishvara drishtihi na anya. The na goes at the end, okay? Because it says samyojanat means through when the buddhi turns around to look at itself. That is where the Ishvara Drishti takes place. The darshan of Ishvara takes place. When you turn back, when you are turned back to yourself, thanks to the words of texts like Saddarshanam and the Shastra, other Shastra. So that Samyojana means that is where that union is. Because you understand that it is I alone, there is nothing other than I, which is this shining self, the self-shining self, which is limitless, which is free of all afflictions and mental modifications, emotional trauma, everything, which is not involved with anything that is going on, which is itself free and joyous and limitless. The person understands that itself is the union with Ishvara, and there is you may search high or low, you may search for many other means, there is no other way to know Ishvara. If there is any other way, it is not Ishvara. It is something else. It is an object that is being mistaken for Ishvara. But how to do this inward turning, etc., we'll have to wait until Monday. Yes. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you.
Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you.
Thank you.